You walk into your home after a family visit, and the first thing you feel isn't comfort. It's quiet and a kind of heaviness you can't explain. You might sit down and wonder why you feel so drained when nothing bad really happened. You held it together like you always do. You listened, you supported, you stayed calm, and somehow you're the one who comes home feeling empty. By the end of this video, you understand why being the strong one leaves you feeling hollow after family visits, and you know exactly what to do differently next time without feeling guilty. There are two things most strong, empathic women never get told. The first is why you keep stepping into this role even when it hurts you. And the second is the exact sentence you can say next time that protects your energy without creating a fight. Most people assume the strong one is naturally strong, that you were just born resilient and capable, the dependable one. But if you look closely, your strength probably didn't start as strength. It started as adaptation. Maybe you were the calm one when emotions got big. Maybe you were the understanding one when someone else was overwhelmed. Maybe you were the one who didn't need much because needing things felt complicated. Somewhere along the way, your nervous system learned something very specific. Connection happens when I hold it together. Love stays when I stay steady. Belonging is safer when I don't take up too much space. And here's the part no one tells you. Your body still believes that even now. That's why you walk into family gatherings already slightly braced, even if you don't realize it. Your shoulders might look relaxed, but inside there's a quiet readiness. You're listening between the lines, watching moods, adjusting your tone, not because you're weak, but because you're trained. And listen closely, because this part surprises a lot of women. The exhaustion you feel afterward isn't coming from the conversations. It's coming from the self-abandonment that happened silently the whole time. It looks small from the outside. Someone interrupts you, and you let it go. Someone vents for 20 minutes, and you nod along. Someone makes a comment that stings and you smile anyway. Someone needs help, and you say yes before you even check how tired you are. Nothing dramatic, just 100 tiny moments where you leave yourself. When you finally get home, your system registers the cost. That hollow feeling isn't weakness. It's the emotional equivalent of muscle fatigue. Except the muscle you used was restraint. You restrained your feelings, your needs, and your truth. You might be thinking, but they're my family. Of course you care. Of course you want peace. Of course you don't want to create tension. That's not the problem. The problem is the role you automatically step into without noticing. Imagine sitting at the table while someone starts talking about their stress. Another person jumps in, and suddenly you're the listener, the steady one, the reasonable one. Nobody assigned you that role out loud. You just slid into it like muscle memory. Part of you might even feel proud of that. Being the strong one can feel meaningful. It can feel like purpose. It can feel like identity. The strong one rarely gets held. And sometimes the reason you keep being the strong one is because you don't fully trust that anyone else will be. So you step in early. You smooth things over. You anticipate needs. You prevent conflict before it starts, not because you want to control everything, but because your nervous system learned that stability depends on you. That belief runs deeper than logic. Logically, you know you shouldn't leave every visit feeling depleted. Logically, you know relationships are supposed to go both ways. Logically, you know you deserve support too. But logic isn't what runs the moment when someone sighs heavily across the table, or when tension rises in the room, or when someone looks at you expecting understanding. Your body responds before your mind does. Suddenly you're back in the role of regulator, translator, peacemaker, emotional anchor. You might not notice it happening until the drive home, when the silence in the car feels heavier than it should, when your chest feels tight for no clear reason, when your thoughts start replaying conversations. You wonder why you said yes to things you didn't want to do, or why you didn't say what you meant to say, or why you feel strangely invisible. Here's something almost no one explains to the strong one. Being needed is not the same as being known. You didn't spend an entire day being appreciated and still feel unseen. People may see your strength while never seeing your limits. They may rely on your calm while never noticing your effort. They may feel supported by you without ever asking what support looks like for you. And the quiet cost is that when you're always the strong one, you slowly lose contact with the part of you that needs care. Not because it disappears, but because it gets postponed again and again. I'll rest later. I'll deal with that later. It's not a big deal. I can handle it. And you probably can handle a lot. That's the truth. But handling is not the same as being nourished. This is where emptiness begins. Not from drama, but from depletion. Not from conflict, but from containment. If this feels familiar, there's a very specific reason you keep doing it even when part of you is tired of it. It isn't just habit, and it isn't just personality. It's something deeper that most people miss. Once you see it, something shifts in a very practical way, because it explains why you walk into visits with good intentions and walk out feeling like you disappeared a little. And it also leads directly to the one sentence that can quietly change the entire dynamic the next time you're together. The deeper reason you keep becoming the strong one is not because you want to disappear. It's because somewhere inside, being easy to be with started to feel safer than being fully honest. When you were younger, even in small ways, you may have learned that showing frustration made things harder, showing hurt made things uncomfortable, and showing needs sometimes led to disappointment. So your nervous system made a quiet decision. It decided that harmony was protection. It decided that steadiness was love. And it decided that if someone had to absorb the tension, it might as well be you. And here's the part that changes everything once you see it. Your body still treats family visits like emotional terrain that needs managing. Even when everyone is behaving reasonably, even when nothing dramatic happens, part of you stays alert. You track tone. You monitor reactions. You soften your words. You anticipate what might go wrong. That invisible effort drains more energy than the actual conversations do. And when the visit ends, your system finally drops the effort. That drop can feel like emptiness, but it's actually your nervous system releasing a load it carried for hours. What feels like emptiness is often exhaustion mixed with relief, and understanding that alone can remove a layer of shame. Here's a moment to check in with yourself quietly. When you think about your last family visit, did you notice how early you started managing the emotional atmosphere? Did you feel responsible for keeping things smooth even when no one asked you to? Did you leave wishing someone had asked how you were doing instead of assuming you were fine? And did you promise yourself that next time you would do it differently, only to fall into the same role again? If those questions stir something in you, there's nothing wrong with you. This is a learned pattern, and learned patterns can be gently changed. But change doesn't start with pushing yourself to be tougher. It starts with staying connected to yourself while you're with them. That sounds simple, but for the strong one, it can feel unfamiliar. You're used to focusing outward, so bringing attention back inward is where your power actually begins. Next time you're with family, you might notice a moment when someone starts leaning on you emotionally and you feel that familiar pull to hold everything together. Instead of automatically stepping in, you can pause just long enough to stay with yourself. You might hear yourself say something like, I care about what you're saying, but I don't have the energy to go deep into it right now. That sentence doesn't attack anyone. It doesn't create drama. It simply keeps you present inside your own limits. There may be another moment when someone expects you to solve something or take responsibility for something that isn't really yours. You might feel the usual urge to say yes before you even think. This time you could say, Let me think about that, and I'll get back to you. That small space between request and answer protects you more than forcing yourself to be endlessly available ever will. It gives your nervous system time to stay included in the decision. And sometimes the strongest boundary is the quietest one. When a conversation starts to feel heavy and you can sense your energy dropping, you might simply say, I'm going to step outside for a few minutes and reset. You don't need permission to take care of yourself. You're not abandoning anyone by doing that. You're preventing the slow abandonment of yourself that leads to emptiness later. There's also a simple reset you can use during or after a visit that takes about a minute and helps your body come back to itself. You can try it even today. Sit with both feet on the floor and let your hands rest somewhere solid, maybe on your thighs or gently over your ribs. Take a slow breath into your nose, not forcing it, just allowing it to deepen slightly, and then let the exhale be longer than the inhale. As you breathe out, press your feet lightly into the floor and feel the contact underneath you. Then quietly say to yourself, I'm allowed to stay with myself. Do that for 3 or 4 breaths. The breath slows the stress response. The pressure through your feet tells your body you're supported. And that simple sentence reminds your system that connection doesn't require disappearance. Many strong women notice that even 1 minute of this changes how the rest of the evening feels. Something subtle begins to shift when you practice this. You may still be the steady one in your family, but steadiness starts to include you too. Instead of being the container for everyone else's emotions, you become someone who can stay present without overextending. And strangely enough, this often improves relationships instead of harming them, because people begin to meet the real version of you instead of the endlessly accommodating one. You don't have to stop being caring. You don't have to stop being supportive. Those qualities are real strengths. The shift is simply this. You are no longer strong at your own expense. The emptiness after family visits begins to fade, not because your family changes overnight, but because you stop leaving yourself behind while you're with them. The strong one isn't meant to carry everything. Real strength includes limits, honesty, and rest. And when you start honoring those, you may notice something surprising. You come home from a visit feeling quieter instead of hollow, tired but still connected to yourself. That's when being the strong one stops feeling lonely. You're allowed to be steady and supported at the same time. In the next video, we'll talk about why empaths feel guilty for setting boundaries and how to release that guilt without becoming someone you're not.